Good morning students, I am Purnima and once again I welcome you to my English channel. And today with children I'm going to revise a poem number 5, A Legend of the Northland. So it is written by Phoebe Carey. Okay, this poem is written by Phoebe Carey. He is the poet and he was born on September 4, 1824. So when he was born on 4th September 1824 and then he died in July 31, 1871. He was an American poetess. She was an American poetess and the younger sister of Alice Carey, who again was a great poet. His sister co-published poem in 1849 and then each went to publish volumes of their own. Carey occasionally attended school. She often had to work at home and hence was largely self-educated. Her mother died in 1835 and 2 years later her father married again. Phoebe died of hepatitis and was buried in New York. After the death of both sisters, a joint anthology of their poem was also completed. So children, this is about the poetess, and now what is the poetess? She told you, or she gave the central idea of the poem. So the poem put forth the idea that we should not be selfish and always help the needy. So we should not be selfish, children. Nowadays in this material world, okay, everybody is selfish, running a rat race after earning the only money. They don't have time for each other, they don't have time to talk, to help, to listen to the problem of each other. So she is telling, the poem put forth the idea that we should not be selfish and always help the needy. A selfish person has no satisfaction in life. Theme of the poem. The Northland is a very cold region covered with snow. So children, we all know children, Northland is a place from where I think you know the center person also. His native place is also Northland. So Northland is a very cold region of India. Okay, it is all of the world, not in India, sorry. The Northland is a very cold place in the world. Okay, it's a cold region covered with snow. Its closeness to the North Pole gives this place a cold weather with very few hours of sunlight. So children, since it is near the North Pole, so very less hours of sunshine this bird is having. Otherwise, this area is totally covered by snow. The poetess has written that here the hours of the day are few and nights are long in winter. The people are unable to spend the whole night sleeping. The poetess doesn't believe in the authenticity of the story, yet she is tempted to share the story. Once St. Peter was on his usual round of traveling and preaching people. He felt hungry. He chanced upon an old cottage where a little woman was making cakes. St. Peter went near the woman and asked for some cakes to eat. The little woman started to bake a small cake for him. After the cake was done, she found it too big to be given for free. So she decided to bake an even smaller cake. This went on and on till she made a wafer for St. Peter. She even kept that wafer for herself instead of giving it to St. Peter because she was too greedy and wanted to earn much money from that cake. So St. Peter, because she was too greedy to part with a single morsel of food. Children, when St. Peter observed all this thing, he became very angry, at her. He said that she was too selfish to dwell in human form and he caused her to become a bird and live searching for scanty food in the jungle. Scanty means less. By dignity, all dry and hard wood. After St. Peter cursed, the little woman went up through the chimney and turned into a woodpecker. Her whole body turned to coal black because of going up to the chimney. Her red cap turned to the red scarlet of the woodpecker. After that, people see her in the forest where she lives by boring and boring the dry wood in search of food. So children, this is the poem and I've told you the background of the poem. Okay, in a nutshell, main points of the poem I will be discussing it. That the Northland is a cold region. There the nights are longer as compared to days in the winter. Once St. Peter stopped at an old lady's cottage because he was feeling hungry. The lady was baking cakes on the hearth. When St. Peter asked for one of the cakes, she tried to make a tiny cake for him. But when she baked it, she found it too large to give it to him. She tried to bake 2 or more times, but even the smallest of the cakes seemed too large to her. Such greedy behavior of the lady annoyed the hungry saint. He cursed her, saying that she was far too selfish to be a human, to have food, shelter, and fire to keep her warm. Thus she was transformed into a woodpecker. All her clothes except her scarlet cap were gone as she went up the chimney and flew out of the top. Every schoolboy is said to have seen her in the forest, going into the woods for food. So children, you can see that a person, according to St. Peter, that person is not supposed to live on earth if she is so selfish and so greedy. So now children, I will be doing the explanation of the poem, the first part. Okay. So, and children, many things I wanted to tell here, that this poem is actually a ballad. This can be sung into a song. And Saint Peter is a legendary figure. Children, people believe that he is an apostle of the God and who has to spread this message. So this is a legend. What is the meaning of legend, children? Legend means that the person, the proof is not there, but this story is coming from generation and generation. Okay, and people have faith in such a story, so it is coming from generation and generation we can hear, but there is no particular proof we are having that such a thing was there in the book. So now I am going to start with the first stanza of the poem. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Okay, so children, here few means some, and winter means it is the coldest season of the year. So away, away indoors, Northland. So which place is discussed here? It is discussed one of the coldest place of the world, that is Northland. It is near the North Pole. Away, where the hours of the day are few. Okay, so what is the specific quality of this place? That means hours of the day are very few and nights are long here in winters, because it is written here, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them. Okay, so that they cannot sleep through means in winter the nights are so long, okay, that they can't spend them in sleeping. They can't spend them in sleeping. Now to stanza 2 we will move where they harness the swift reindeer in the sledge when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. This is the second paragraph of stanza, student. And first of all, we will write some new words. Harness. Harness means to fasten. Okay. fasten something, to tie something. Then what children here, the poet is telling, uh, all the to the sledge. Then when they harness the swift reindeer, so children, the sledge is there, they sit in sledge and they move in the snow. What is a sledge? I think you all know what is a sledge. uh, when children, have you seen Santa Claus riding in a sledge, and the reindeers pull the sledge, and that song is also there, na? Jingle bell. In that also you must have heard riding in a sledge going to the, okay, something like that. So sledge is a, children, is like a cart. It doesn't have wheel, and it is pulled by reindeers in a snow. So where they harness the swift reindeer. Harness means the reindeers are tied. The reindeers who walk fast, they are tied with the sledge. When it's snow heavily, so it is run like that. And the children look like bears cubs. Children what they put furry clothes, and they look like a bear's cubs in their funny furry clothes. Funny is amusing, and furry is covered with fur. So children, the children, who are the children compared to, the children are compared here to the bears cub, because they are putting that funny clothes of fur. What kind of clothes do the children wear? Children wear furry clothes. Where do they harness swift reindeer? So they harness the swift reindeers in the sledge. The children look like bears cub in their furry clothes. So what did the children look like? They look like the bears cub in the furry clothes. They tell them, and the children look like bears cub in their furry funny clothes. So they look a bit funny in the clothes of the fur which they are putting. Now children, stanza third. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale of you. Now, the poet is telling that I am going to tell you a curious. Curious means a strange tale. Okay, I am going to tell you a strange tale which is very curious. I don't believe it is. He's telling sometime even I don't believe it is true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale of you. Still, this is a homophone word. Tell and tale. Tale is a story, tell is to tell someone. Okay. So he is telling, I will tell you the story, I will tell you the tale. Okay. Through that tale you may learn a lesson. That is that you will be learning the lesson. So children, who does not believe in the story, the children who does not believe in the story, the Santa Claus, sorry, the poet does not believe in the story. Why does the poet narrate this tale? The poet narrate it because it was a moral lesson to be learned for the listener. That's why it's narrating. Whom is the story told to? The story is told to the children. Children, who are they in the first line? So they are the local people of North Lake here in the first line. Now, once then the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it, preaching just as he did you. So children, Saint Peter, he was let me tell you who is Saint Peter. He is a saint, he is a messenger of God, and he tells about the message sent by God to the people. What did he do? He simply used to preach the people. Saint Peter lived in the mortal and below the heavenly abode of God. So where does he live? He lived in the mortal world below the heavenly abode of God. Who did Saint Peter preach to? Saint Peter preached to the people of the world. Saint Peter, what he did? He preached to the people of the world. Okay, so we have done the fourth stanza also. Now, stanza number 5. He came into the door of a cottage and traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and taking them on the earth. So cottage is a very small home, and children, bake means to bake a cake, okay, to cook that cake. Heart is a fireplace. Heart is a Hearth. Heart is a fireplace here. So, whom did the Saint Peter meet? Saint Peter met a little woman. What was she doing? She was baking cakes. He came to the door of the cottage. Children, who came to the door of the cottage? He came to the door of cottage, and then he traveled round the earth. So, children, Saint Peter, he came to the door of the lady's cottage, okay, and where did he travel? Children, he traveled around the whole earth, and since he was feeling hungry and he was a bit tired, so he want to have some food from that ladies, but you can see I've told you what she has done to him. Now, children, stanza 7. So she made a very little a piece of cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Now, children, when Saint Peter told him that he is hungry, okay, so what she did, she started baking a cake. And children, but as it baking lay is put down, she looked at it and she thought, and children, a thought came to her mind that this cake is too large to be given to the Saint Peter. So she should bake some another cake. What is the poem, children, here? The legend of the Northland, and the poet is Toby Carey. The little woman made a very little cake. And why did she made a little cake? Because she made a little cake for Saint Peter. Then why did she think about the cake? She thought about the cake was too large to be given away to Saint Peter. Okay. So these are some of the questions which I have discussed with you. And stanza 8 now. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked when she turned it over as large as the first time had done. So children, what she had done, that lady, she had kneaded the everything, the cake, the material of the cake again, and again, children, she baked the cake, and again she found it was large than large. She found it as large as the first one. Now she made a smaller cake for Saint Peter. The second cake also looked to her as the first one to the little woman. So children, she baked cake for twice, but then she felt that it is the size of that cake is first. It is same size of the first one. Now, then children, what happened? She made a smaller cake for Saint Peter. The second cake also looked as large as the first one to the little woman. So let's see what she decided. Then she took a tiny scrap of duff. Scrap is a small piece and duff is flour mixed with water, and rolled a flat. Okay, she rolled many times so that it looked bigger, and baked it thin as wafer. And she baked it, children, with the help of wafer she has. That the size of the cake was like not the cake but as a wafer, but she could not part with that, and she could not part with that thing. She took a tiny, so what she did, she took a tiny scrap of dough, rolled it and made it thin. Untimely, she could not give the cake to the saint. Again, children, she felt that the cake is too large for Saint Peter, and she started baking the cake. She kept on rolling the dough till it became flat and thin. The cake looked like a thin wafer. So the cake looked like a thin wafer. Who is the speaker? Now, children, this is the poem. What did she do? She took a tiny scrap of dough, rolled it and made it a thin cake. Then children, again she could not give that cake to the cake because she felt it is too small. Okay, and but to her it looked the size of the first one also. She looked like a thin. Now the cake looked like a thin wafer. The cake which she went, she children baked, and still she doesn't have has become greedy. She did not want to give that even that cake to Saint Peter now. What she said, my cake will seem too small when I eat of them myself, and yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Now, children, shelf is along the poem piece of wood, wish, etc. So, who is the speaker in this line? When do the cake seem too small? When do the cake seem too large? Where did she put them? So the little woman, a baker, is the speaker in these lines. The cake seems too small when the speaker eats them herself. The cake seemed too large when she gave them away to someone. She put them on the shelf. And children, so children, what she had done. Again, children, she baked the cake which she seemed to her too small to be given to the speaker who eats them. And children, she did not eat. She felt that the cake is too large again. This time she put the cake to the shelf. Now, stanza 11. So, children, you can see how greedy was she. She was not giving any cake. So many times she baked the cake, but then she was feeling it is too large to be given. Okay, and finally, children, the smallest cake which she made, she put it on the shelf. Now, children, that was enough for Saint Peter. He could not tolerate it now anymore. He was for the last few hours he was sitting and waiting for the food, for the cake to come, so that he should have his food, children, meals. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and weak, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Now, how did the children Saint Peter feel? Saint Peter felt very angry. He could not tolerate this little woman because he was hungry, and feeling exhausted, he felt irritated at the woman's attitude. Okay. He felt angry as he was hungry and weak, and the little woman was not giving him any cake. So, children, here in this whole paragraph, children, it is Saint Peter who is being described here. Well, children, now, children, what was the reaction of Saint Peter? Now we are here at stanza 12. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form. You have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. He told me these few words. He cursed her. What did the Saint Peter said about the woman? Saint Peter said she was very selfish woman. And children, here you in the first line refer to the women only. That woman was very selfish. And do you think that type of women should live in a human form? I don't think so. Because if a person is so mean, okay, then they are the enemy of the humanity. She could have given, she was having so many cakes, she could have given a small piece of cake for eating because it was almost fainting. But she did not do that. So what I feel that such person is not supposed to live on earth. What kept now the children, the what kept the little woman warm? The children, she was living in a cozy house, she was having good food to eat, and children, what kept her warm? Fire kept the little woman warm. So now children are going to do the stanza 13 of the poem. What is stanza 13? Now you shall build as the bird do, and shall get your scanty food. Why boring and boring and boring, all day in the hard and dry food. Now children, the meaning of scanty is too small in size or amount. Too small in size or amount. Making holes. Making holes. Hard. Hard is solid. What did the saint do? The saint cursed her. The baker will now get her food by food. And now children, what did Saint Peter do? The saint cursed her. And shall get you scanty food. How will the baker get her food now? The baker will now get her food by boring the hard dry wood, and boring and boring and boring. Boring means making holes. The little woman would take the form of the bird, and she would be boring and boring and boring, and she would be only making holes. Now, will she get plenty of food? No, she will not get plenty of food. She will get scanty food. Then children, stanza 14. Then up the chimney she went. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word. And out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Chimney, children, is a pipe through which smoke or steam is carried out. Okay. And children, woodpecker is a type of a bird with a strong bills and a stiff tail, and we can see her making food every time. So pecking and pecking to the foods every time. Now, she was changed into birds, or she was changed to a bird. She was changed after pecking, children, she flew as the bird. So, who cursed the little woman? It was Saint Peter who cursed the little woman. What was the little woman changed to? The little woman was changed into a bird. Okay, why? And which bird, children? Woodpecker. She changed into the bird. She changed into woodpecker. Children, that is the bird who has to work very hard for her food. So she was changed into woodpecker. Well, now it's still stanza. I have to explain you people. Then children, we have to do the important question answer. In the revision, we will be discussing every type of question answer, long question answer, MCQ, so many question answers. So you can see children that this woodpecker, the lady was changed into woodpecker. It was the punishment given by Lord Peter, and as she was so mean, he felt that she should not live in the world. This type of mean person is a enemy to the mankind, so he changed it into a woodpecker. With this, I end my video here. Thank you, and have a nice day ahead.